Notre Dame on the schedule no matter what. I think you got to make it work. But Mace, his argument, people are mad at him about it, but his argument that if you take him off the schedule, you improve your chances to go to the playoff is indisputable, isn't it?
No, it's true, but I think the USC administration would really love to keep the game. I think right now it's more of a negotiation tactic. Being in the Big Ten, it's a lot more difficult with the travel. I mean, I'm heading out to Indianapolis this weekend to go to the Purdue game. There's so many trips going back and forth. They would love to get that Notre Dame game to happen week 1 or week 2, so you don't have all these travel issues going forward where you're traveling back to the Midwest and 2 or 3 time zones at a time. So I think they want to keep it. I get the reason why, but there would be so much backlash, John, from USC fans. They want to see that game. I think it's good for college football. And if you're good enough, you can beat Notre Dame and go to the playoffs anyway.
Yeah. All right, so Jaden Mayava had a tremendous start. Again, 16 of 24, 412 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Boy, those receivers are the real deal. Jacoby Lane, Mekhi Lemon, both terrific. And Jacoby Lane, that is one of the coolest catches I've ever seen. Where does it rank for you?
That was super sick to see him kind of getting held on. I mean, his first 2 catches, he was interfered with, and it didn't matter. He caught the ball anyway. But just to stick his big paw up there, they work on that in practice a lot. But he's just really good at doing that. And to see, you see Mekhi Lemon when he gets the ball in space, he can catch it, get out of traffic, weave, and just run all the way down. He had a 62-yard touchdown and a 74-yard touchdown. I think the most important thing is Jaden Mayava didn't put the ball in harm's way. I think for the first 2 games, he had one play that could have been a turnover. He could have had a ball intercepted against Georgia Southern, but it was a significant improvement of what we saw last year. And there was even one play in the second quarter where he was sort of rolling out and he could have forced the ball in and just throwing it away. They kick a field goal, live to fight another day. I think last year he would have took that chance. So it's a big improvement that he's not putting the ball in harm's way like he was last year.
Ryan Abraham from USCFootball.com is our guest. The Trojans are 2-0, and you can hear every game here on ESPN LA. Ryan, I never asked you about this, and I thought it was significant. He never really reached his full potential, but Zachariah Branch left and transferred to Georgia in the offseason. He took his brother with him. I thought that was going to be a huge blow to USC. Even though Branch only had 1 touchdown last year, I thought he had kind of unlimited potential. But to Mason's point, they don't really miss him, at least not yet, right?
No, him and actually Deuce Robinson is doing really well at Florida State. It was just one of those things where he just didn't seem to work out. And last year, they had like 5 guys along with Kyron Hudson they were all potential number 1 wide receivers. I like the way they have it set up now, and I got to ask Lincoln Riley about this at Big Ten Media Day, where you sort of have 2 Batmans. You have your Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon. They're going to be your number 1 and 2 guys in whatever order you want, and then a bunch of guys that can contribute and be that third player. I think last year there was a lot of mouths to feed, and they were trying to figure that out. And Branch just wasn't great at getting open and making contested catches. And I would say the same thing for Deuce Robinson. They both, I think Branch had a good first game and then didn't do much in their last game for Georgia. But Deuce Robinson, I think, has been more consistent. It'll be interesting to see when they get into conference play how big a contributor those guys can be. But I don't think USC missed them just because they have 2 spectacular wide receivers. And when you can run the offense through those 2 guys, then everyone else can kind of be the sort of the Robin to those Batmans that they have.
And by the way, Hutchinson Community College is where Wayman Jordan came from, and he is racking up huge yards for USC. He looked terrific. They've had a good knack for this. Travis Dye a couple of years ago, Woody Marks last year, Wayman Jordan now, and the running game looks to get on track. Even Eli Sanders is the other guy who's been terrific.
Yeah, Marshawn Lloyd a couple of years ago. One thing Lincoln Riley's done consistently is bring in stud running backs from the transfer portal, and Jordan has more years to play. He's not going to be a one-and-done guy. We just heard so many good things about him. You got to see him out on the field. He had that early fumble, and I think Lincoln Riley knew he's still going to be the guy, got him the ball right away after that. I think he had 167 yards in that. And you just see him. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He does a good job in pass protection. He's really good at making guys miss. I think he's just a really complete back and a great find, to win the JC equivalent of the Heisman Trophy and then come in there. And, you never know when transfers come up from a lower level how they're going to do. But everything we heard about Wayman Jordan is great teammate, great player, and so far we've seen that on the field, Nate.
Ryan Abraham with us. Ryan, something or nothing that Georgia Southern, who is obviously an inferior opponent, USC won the game by 40 points, but that Georgia Southern put 20 points on the board. When Missouri State scored 13, I thought, that's probably about as much as you should allow. And when Georgia State scored 20, I thought that's probably a little more than you should allow. Is the USC defense improved, significantly improved, or does it remind you of last year?
That's a great question. Actually, Missouri State went out and beat Marshall last week, which is crazy. So they got their first FBS win. So that 73 points they put up looks a little better. But, yeah, I think USC in this game started substituting more on defense, and it was almost like some experimenting was going on. If you that long touchdown drive that Georgia Southern had in the third quarter, a lot of backups were in on that one. But it was a 15-play drive that took over 6 minutes. I know Danton Lynn wouldn't like to see that if at all possible. They did have a bunch of penalties. There were 3 hands to the face penalties and a couple of PI penalties. So I think those are kind of things that you have to clean up. But I feel like it wasn't bad. Clay Helton had this team ready. The guys were really trying to play hard for him. They pulled out all the stops and still end up losing by 39. So I'm not too concerned, John. But, yeah, I think going into Big Ten play, you want to see some of that stuff cleaned up, especially on the penalty side, because they extended some drives with some of the plays that they had where they got penalties and giving them first down. So you don't want to see that, especially going on the road to Purdue. They got to clean that up going into Big Ten play.
So this week at Purdue, then home to Michigan State. They're heavy favorites at Purdue. What does that Michigan State game look like? And by the way, why is it at 8 p.m.? Why is there an 8 p.m. kickoff for a big-time Big Ten game?
The answer to all of your questions is money, right? Right, Ryan?
Yeah. You got to have money. They're putting that one on Fox. And, yeah, certainly I think just those huge TV contracts that you sign, you kind of sign up for that. I know Ohio State, they won the national championship last year, but they didn't like playing at noon.
At noon, right.
That's sort of the way it goes, USC's been pretty lucky since joining the Big Ten. There haven't been a lot of those late kickoffs. If anything, they've been earlier than normal. But, yeah, that's a really late one. And Barry Odom, Purdue already has 2 wins. They only had 1 all of last year. He comes over from UNLV, where he coached Jane Maiava his freshman year when they won the Mountain West Championship. So that's interesting. And Josh Henson, who was the OC and offensive line coach for USC last year, is now the offensive coordinator there. But they brought in a whole bunch of transfers. I think they're making Purdue a lot better of a team, but USC should still be able to take care of business on that one. But they're a much better Purdue team than we saw last year.
All right, 2-0. I will take it. Couldn't have played much better than they did next week at Purdue. Ryan, always great having you on. Thank you very much. USCfootball.com. Look forward to doing this every Monday, man.
By the way, Ryan, when you get to Indianapolis, Steak and Shake, okay? That's where you go when you land, and then you go to St. Elmo's for dinner and get the shrimp cocktail, okay?
Ah, nice. A lot of Pacers games, I'm sure.
Yes, many years of frequenting downtown Indianapolis.
Lots of experience there.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Ryan.
See you, Ryan.
All right, coming up next, going to do some icebreakers. We're all over NFL and college football.